everybody.
Hey,
Welcome. Look who we have. We have Chris. Chris from Italy and by way of Massachusetts, right?
actually Salem, New Hampshire, but whatever. We'll talk about it.
I'm thrilled to have you join me for this fairly new concept for bingo. It's bingo at noon Eastern time on Fridays, and it's called Bingo Spaces. And what we're doing is we're trying to show you guys different ways to create space pages to help with your research, or maybe you just need some extra scratch pad. We all have that scratch pad on our navigation page, but this allows us to kind of share the research, or you can make it private, however you'd like. But with a space page, it allows you to document and connect profiles and people that you're working on. So welcome to Bingo Space Pages, Chris. We are so thrilled to have you because you're bringing something very unique. It is a family historical book. And I am positive everybody must have one of these in your family. So if you have one, let us know if you have one. And I'm going to try and say this, Chris, don't laugh. Okay, so your book is Haverhill. Okay, I'm trying to get it correctly because my accent does not work with Massachusetts. So what's the name of the book, Chris? Tell me the name.
Well, all right. Well, first things first, we're going to have to work on that. We'll have to get you some Dunkins and get you hooked into the Celtics game. Playoffs. They won game 1 last night. Go Celtics. Yes, the book is called Italians in Haverhill, and I didn't write it, obviously. It came out in 2001, so how could I?
Did you know the book was coming out?
Actually, yes. The author went to see my great aunt, Aunt Louise, and she talked a bit, but she decided, no, I don't want to be in the book. And I'm like, oh, come on. But the funny thing, but here's the funny thing. The book came out, and we got a copy from my grandmother. She liked it and everything. She lent her copy to one of her friends in Haverhill, right?
Mm-hmm.
Never saw it again. So I ended up buying this for my dad because he didn't have a copy anymore, obviously. And just like, why? But
so was she in the book?
But here's the best part. Aunt Louise was still mentioned in the book because her husband's family, the Villanucci's, are pictured in here. And they talk about that a little bit. So she ended up being in the book anyway.
Did she contribute a lot of information to this book? Family lines and things that we might not have known? Or, stories, pictures? Did she do any of that?
I think so. There's a few pictures here and there. And it's like, there's over, 200 families represented here. So, and I only scratched the surface on WikiTree because I would put down everybody that was connected to me some way. And there's a lot more in this book. A lot more.
So this is really interesting to me because Chris and I were talking a little bit beforehand when I invited him to come on to the show. The family historical books are fascinating to me. And as a professional genealogist, we don't really use them. We will look at them and we will discuss them, and we love the pictures. We will show the pictures and stuff, but we will use them with caution, and I'll tell you why. So I have 2 of my own. So if you guys have one, let us know that you have one. So the first one for my show and tell that is not on a space page, but I'm considering doing it. But if you look at Chris's book, it is much thinner than mine. This one is a book, and it's based on a particular ancestor that everybody wants to try and put a parent to. And there are research papers out there on about 10 different people that could be parents. Each researcher disagrees with each other, basically. So this book is, I won't really show it. This book is riddled with mistakes. It's before internet, it's before ancestry, it's before research was really easy. So I was looking at Chris's Italians book and I was thinking I could put this up and showcase maybe the really glaring mistakes on a space page. But then it might not be so nice. So I don't know. But researchers, we don't look at anything except the facts, right? And
Right.
then my other one, and if you know me, you know this book very, very, very well. This is my other book, and it is my Linger family book. And I actually, if you notice in the intro, I do have a sand page on some of these people in here because, again, when it gets to a certain time in America, if you're going really, really far back, trying to prove how some immigrants came to America and who their parents are, sometimes will always be a brick wall and you won't get there. And that book is really great. It's not riddled with mistakes until you get to the first person and that came over to America. And then it's riddled with mistakes. So Chris, the reason why I like your book is the author actually went to different people to get their family history as well as research. Because this book was written when?
2001.
So it's modern age. You have some accessibility to some documents, and if you want, if you're a researcher, you could take the book even, or take your WikiTree ancestors, go to Italy and research, because I know some records are probably still there, not online yet. Digital, indexing happens every day, as we like to say. So let's go ahead and show you guys two things real quick. So I'm going to show you a random space page because Chris has got stories and we're going to get into the stories. So random space page. I don't know if everybody knows this or not. If you go to WikiTree, come up to the find, and then down halfway through is a random space page. And I'm really hoping I get a good one. I feel like I'm playing blackjack or something like that at the casino. So let's give it a try and see what we've got. If it comes up with your page, Chris, I will.
Well, like roulette, but sure.
So here we go. This is a great one. King Arthur Legends History versus Legend. And this is by Jack Day. And if you know Jack Day, he does a lot with Southern colonies and also a lot with Maryland. And
I heard his father was a hamster and his mother smelled of elderberries.
I mean, he is an excellent researcher. I mean, he is fantastic. So I would have never known this page is there. So if you're ever bored, or if you're, what I like to do, if I'm in a thon, and sometimes with a thon, you start kind of dazing out a little bit, I'll go to a random space page like this and start reading. It's kind of educational. And that's what we're hoping to show with the bingo that we have. And the second thing I want to mention is everybody get your bingo card up. We're going to go through the first bingo card extremely quick on the bingo spaces page because we want to spend time on Chris's family and generations on his book. And Carol, I cannot play that violin. It's too small for me. And Chris had homework and he neglected to do it. This was not biscuit day. This was pepperoni day, pepperoni roll day.
Oh. Sorry. We have pepperoni rolls here.
But that's all right. Chris and I are going to try and judge the pepperoni roll contest one day in our life together. Okay, if everybody has their bingo card up, as I mentioned, we're going to go through this really, really quick. Let me show you the rules. Let me bring them up. So the bingo rules are one person can win every 6 months. If you've already won and you've already won in the past 6 months, please feel free to play along, but do not say bingo. And do not close your card down if you see somebody said bingo, because sometimes it's not a bingo. So keep your card up until we confirm it's a bingo. There's one prize per household every 6 months. It's a mug. The prize is going to be a mug. Lots of different mugs out there as well from WikiTree. It's open to everyone. You do not have to be a WikiTree member to win at bingo. But if you are a WikiTree member and you do win bingo, please make sure that I know your WikiTree ID. That really helps me out. And there'll be 2 bingo games during this episode and then later tonight. How do you win bingo? Horizontally, vertically, or diagonally? That's all you got to do. And everybody click the free space in the middle. Now, if you accidentally click a space and you didn't mean to, just click it again. And the most important thing, don't forget to type bingo in the chat. Several of you might win bingo at the same time, but whoever's the fastest to type it. And feel free to yell it at me. I don't have any problem with you yelling at me either. Okay, so let's talk bingo. This is going to be based off space pages. These are just different space pages that you could do with WikiTree. So here we go. Haha, Flo, you can't win bingo till we start. There is a minimal amount of names that we got to call, but that's exactly how you do it. Feel free to yell at me. Okay, so we mentioned sandbox. I have a sandbox for one of my ancestors. There's 5 of us on WikiTree that disagree. So we created a sandbox so we can collaboratively work on what is false and what is accurate. Biographical sketch. And I feel in a lot of ways, Chris, some of your work with the book that you have is a little bit of biographical sketch on some of the more important people that are outlined, the more notables in your book. A family reunion. This is the time for family reunions this summer. And Chris, you're having one next week, right?
Yeah, my brother and his family are going to be coming up. It's not really so much a reunion. It's just like an annual visit type of thing.
And it definitely, if you do have family reunion pictures from the past, those are really fun to put on a space page. And then you can tag each person that attended the reunion and list them and keep track of the generations. Believe it or not, there is somebody I know that has done this, not on a space page, but has tracked the photos, and they were able to tell when a person had passed away because there were no records at all of this person passing away. So I thought that was kind of cool how they were able to judge based on the spouse was there, but his wife was no longer there in the picture. So that's when they were able to pinpoint the year probably that she had died. In wills, I can tell you that we talked about Jack Day and Southern colonies, U.S. Southern colonies, we do tremendous space pages of wills. Some of these wills are extremely long, extremely detailed. And if you have some that are also contested, put that type of stuff on a space page so it doesn't clutter up the profile, but still connect to all the parties listed in the will. Research. Sometimes you just want a scratch pad. You just want extra little place to put research. It could be several different families. It could be the same family researching. It could be just one person that you're researching. And I like space pages for that because it keeps things separate, but you can still link. And if you are the type of person that prefers to not write on paper and document, and you prefer everything to be electronic, then a space page for multiple research is a great way to look at it. Oh, and we're getting close. Historical event. So this would be really interesting as well. I know that a lot of times in your hometowns, you might have historical events that aren't national news or global news, but you want to include them because you might have somebody in your family that is connected to it. So again, you can write about the historical event. This just gives extra color to a profile as well. So if you have an event in your hometown that was important to your hometown, I'll give you just a really strange example. Here in my hometown, in about a week, we have something called Taste Of, and all the restaurants come together and you buy tickets, and each restaurant will charge so many tickets to taste their food. It's a pretty cool historical event if you think about you're documenting your town and the restaurants in the town, because you can start to see a little bit of the culture. And I will tell you right now, for our town, overwhelmingly it's barbecue, for example. So if you had a different town, if you're in Chris's area, it would probably be overwhelmingly maybe Italian food. And just
more or less, yeah.
And just a different way to.
We have Yeah, Lawrence has the Festival of the Seven Saints, and like around every Christmas, there's a Feast of the Seven Fishes, and they have the Italian get-togethers and that. Boston obviously has a ton of Italian
Well,
American
see, and now
festivals.
you just reminded me, like if you're a runner, the Boston Marathon is a historical
Yeah,
event. If you wanted to document that, David Randall with Notables has a huge sports notables section that he launched last year. So you could also connect into that. And that, again, is kind of the power of WikiTree. We're connecting profiles to a space page and to projects as well. I like how everybody's really, really close. Usually by now, you guys have hit bingo. And a court document. I would say mostly these are really interesting for me. I have just finished researching a great grandfather who was in court quite a bit. His children were in court a lot more because they believed in the freedom of making moonshine without being
looks like
taxed.
Abby Sylvia. Looks like Abby
There we go.
Sylvia.
Abby got it.
Yeah, Abby
So
Sylvia.
court documents are another good way. Congratulations, Abby. Let me
I actually
write.
just got a court document this week, divorce records, and they did not paint my second great grandfather very well. Let's put it that way. That's the G-rated version. That's all
But
I'm gonna say.
but you could put a little synopsis on the profile, and then you could link to a space page that has all the court documents that are listed, transcribed, all the dates and everything on a space page. But you could interchange and come back to that. If you put it all on a profile, I think people tend to get lost with the profile and say, okay, I don't get it. I don't understand what you're doing. But if you say, hey, look at the space page that I have here, it's all detailed, then it becomes an interesting story. It becomes a pretty interesting read. Abby, let me tell you how to claim your prize. Give me 1 second and I will bring it up. You're going to email 𝐒𝐬𝐽 at 𝐒𝐬𝐽@wikitree.com and just let her know that you won the bingo at noon, one of the bingos at noon, and she will get back to you with all the details. So congratulations on winning the bingo. There's lots of really cool mugs to choose from as well. Okay, Chris, let's talk about this book. And first things first, guys, what I want to do is I want to talk about how you set it up. And then we're going to get into some really interesting stories. Chris always has great stories that he brings. Chris showed me something new today that I did not realize. If you guys look at the categories, I did not realize there's a sources by location category, which was kind of cool. Because if you've got a book, and I have mine that are primarily in one location, one source, I can add that category. The other thing that I really like with this is you can have your own sticker.
Yeah.
So all the profiles that you've done have this sticker, but you also have a sticker saying they were in a historical book, correct?
Correct. Yeah, Azure set me up with that sticker a while ago. I was doing that to her. I was asking her if I could do like a little sticker for the book. She's just helped me out with that.
And
And
I love it. I put it on my profiles that I'm working through my book because it just gives me a way to know to come back. And the other thing that you've done that I really like with this page, you have some pictures, which is great to relate to them, and everybody is named. But as you come down, you also give us the information where to get the book.
yeah, because it's still on sale on Amazon. I mean, this is part of the Images of America series.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that's ever going to be like out of print anytime soon because people always want to know more about different areas of the country. And I know for a fact that David Allen Lambert, the chief genealogist at the New England Genealogical Historical Society in Boston, he actually wrote a book for the Images of America, but not on evil, obviously. He wrote it on Stoughton. So
And
there's something now.
my books are out of print, so I love it that yours is not, and
Well,
that makes it even more trickier.
yeah, I think yeah, Arcadia Publishing's still around. But I do have some of those old genealogy books from like the 1700s to the
Mhm.
early 1900s. And they're based on New England families. They tend to be a little bit more accurate because New England records tend to be a little bit more accurate than anywhere else. I mean, sure there are some errors and everything, but they tend to be really good. And they gel well with the records you find online. So that's always a plus.
And here's the sticker that we mentioned. This is the sticker that for everybody that is mentioned in this book, Chris adds a sticker to the profile so you know, and then you can come back to this page and see. This is exactly what I do for mine. I put the reference and I also put the page that that person is located in the book. So then you can come right on back to this page or to this book. Some books are online. Now, some books are on Internet Archive and they're very thick. So having the page number is really fantastic when you're researching. Otherwise, you're going to go dig a lot. Now, you
Yeah.
made a table as well, and your table was for the notables, not for everybody in the book, but for the notables.
Cal just pitched my blog. Yes, thanks, Cal. She just mentioned my blog. Thank you.
You actually have two.
Yeah.
But you do really a good job on. Okay, why did you do this? Why did you do this space page?
Well, I did it because I got this book from my dad, obviously, and I was just like, I see a lot of my relatives in here, and I was like, you know what? I just want to put them all. I already had most of them on WikiTree, so I was just like, you know what? Why don't I just do a study about it? Because it's a good book, and it's a good way to get cousin bait, actually, and actually found some cousins. I'll get to that in a little bit, but yeah, it's a good way to find relatives and everything else. And some people be like, oh, hey, this person was in this book, you know. I just figured it'd be good cousin bait, and I just
Yes.
wanted to, you know, because I really liked the book, and I just wanted to show, you know, why, you know, there was such a huge population of Italians in Haverhill at the time, and because most people think about Boston and New York being a hub of Italian activity, but there was places like Lawrence, Haverhill, up and down the Merrimack Valley, where there were a lot of Italians hanging out. So,
Well, I think what's great is you've taken the book, you've converted it to a point where now it's genealogy and traceable electronically.
yes.
And so that was something that I really liked. Let me move over to the category. So for this particular book, Chris has entered in WikiTree everybody that's listed in the book and included them in their own category. As you notice, there's 128 profiles. The thing that I really like about this too is we were looking at this before we came on air. You'll start to see some names that are grouped together because they're the last name, so they begin with the same last name. But you start to recognize some of the families as you're going through, and I think that's really helpful when somebody is researching and saying, "Oh, well, here's this person." As you said, there's cousin bait. Maybe I was only looking for Mary, and what do you know? I found Giuseppe and Louis and Frank along the way.
Yeah.
So that's one of the other reasons that I like this. What you've done with this is the cousin bait and going through and seeing all the work that you've done. How long did it take you to do this?
I think I started it. What was it? I started it like after the pandemic, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it was just like after I got the book from my dad, and just like, you know what? Let's just see where it goes, see where it takes me. And then I started small, and I just worked from there.
Did you start from your family, or did you start
I started from my family, and then I just kind of like, looked at the book, and like, okay, this is so and so here, and I looked actually at some trees on Ancestry because they had some of the people in the book, and I just kind of like put it all together, and eventually they just ended up connecting. So.
And you almost did your own cousin bait with the book as you go through. Okay, so let's see some of these profiles, because it's one thing to put a profile in from the book or from anywhere, right? Just put it in WikiTree and it's in, and I've got some sources. But I really want to show you Chris's work because it's beautiful. So Giovanni is one that you wanted me to show. How come?
Well, Giovanni Coppola was one of the first from San Pietro of Maida, which is where my dad's paternal ancestors are from. And he, how do I put this? He actually paved the way for a ton of Italians to come to Haverhill, mostly from San Pietro and surrounding areas, because during the time when he lived, southern Italy was, very, very poor. It was poverty-stricken because of the policies that favored the north rather than the south. So he went over to Haverhill and he brought his family over. He brought, he paved the way for my grandfather's and his mom to come over. And that was like 1929. They're not in the book, but they still went to his house, the first destination. And he brought over a ton of other people as well. Not just my family, but like his friends and their families and everybody. But the best part is he worked at the grocer in the city of Haverhill, which supplied food for the growing Italian community. And he just kind of spread that. He's like a legend in the Italian community. So
he must have been a legend in the community because, as those of us that research immigration, we know that there has to be some money involved to sponsor people to come over. And sometimes those people not only need proof of sponsorship that he's doing, which means he made enough money to support this family so they weren't a burden on society. But sometimes they also need money for the passage. And this gentleman must have been pretty much a legend in his town.
Yeah, and the legend continued because his children, right? I'm just looking at the list right there. Yeah, his son Frank ran a bus company in Haverhill, which lasted up until, I want to say, the early 2000s. So his family was a pretty big deal in Haverhill.
And they just continued on the generations. Let me bring up the category. Someone asked about the category. So this particular category is not necessarily what we would classify as a personal one, but it does have a personal project with a space page and a category, and it does fit into a set of categories. What Chris has done, because he's looking at one particular location, he added this category, nested it under the town sources category, but also the location. So if you go to the location, then you will see some subcategories and then some pages that are also there. And there is his Italians. If there are cemetery pages, categories that have space pages, there are still out there. Way back in the day with WikiTree, if you created a category for a cemetery, you usually created a companion space page. That kind of was not really required the past couple years, but if you see a cemetery space page, generally it was created by the person who has a lot of family in that cemetery. And
I created space pages for most of the city of Haverhill cemeteries. I just felt like doing it. I just started small and just kind of grew from there.
And then you also have the one-place study. And as you know, if you have a one-place study request, go through the project to create that. We do a lot of coding behind the scenes to make your one-place study work, but it operates the same way. It would go into a basic location. Now, I guess the question would be, what happens if you have a book that doesn't have just one location and you have multiple locations? Then you might want to nest that possibly under a one name study or different categories on the different locations. So if I have somebody in my book that is from Maryland, West Virginia, and Georgia, I would probably include the book like Chris has done just in one location. I would probably narrow it down and try and include the larger families in the locations within WikiTree. I don't know, Chris, did you have some that have moved from this location? You didn't include the category in those separate locations, did you?
No, I think so.
That I would think not, and I wouldn't do that either. I don't think, unless it was an extremely large family that moved there or a branch of the family. Okay, let's talk about 𝐿𝐷𝐿.
𝐿𝐷𝐿. She is the sister of my second great grandmother, Catalina. And the great thing about her is that she and her brother, Paolo, they both went to Haverhill, Massachusetts. Catalina stayed behind in Italy with her husband, Marco, which is also the same name as my grandfather. And 𝐿𝐷𝐿 raised a pretty decent sized family, and her brother had a lot more kids, but the thing about her is we have pictures of her, and we have her birth certificate in my my basement, in my great grandfather's toolbox.
That's amazing.
I don't know why we have it, but we have it. What's some other records from San Pietro? We have his mother's birth certificate. We have Marco's, my grandfather's, and I was like, why do we have these? I mean, I can't ask my great grandfather, obviously, or anybody else for that matter. My dad doesn't know. He's like, I don't know why we have these. So weird, so random.
But you can't get rid of them.
No, of course not.
Yeah, you can't get rid of them. So, but that's kind of an interesting story. So if you have some of these documents or trinkets, like I have a lot of trinkets from ancestors, I don't have a lot of documents, and that might be something that I put on their profile, but I might say, well, this was passed down from family to family, and explain the trinket and who received it. So a lot of different things that you can do with these space pages as you look at either the historical books or just the people you're trying to connect in your own family. I always think of farms too. Like when we were talking about you joining this, I kept thinking about some farms in Italy and farms before the wars and things like that. And you could document even, neighbors' farms. We have a lot of that in Appalachia, where if you actually did a diagram or had some of the deeds that are easily online, you would see a pattern of how the families married within each other. And, that's something Italy and Appalachia kind of share, is the endogamy that goes through. So I think that it's interesting to compare the historical books and the historical families that you have visually, as well as just in a paragraph or text. Okay.
But the interesting thing is San Pietro, my family tree, doesn't really have the Italian endogamy at all. Mainly because they're so close to the other towns like 𝐒𝐚𝐬𝐳, 𝐼𝐸𝐴, all the other Italian towns. But there is something else I want to talk about with 𝐿𝐷𝐿, because I talked to my great aunt about her, and she told me about her great aunt, and they had a big time together. And actually, the interesting thing is the family stayed in touch, and Angelina, her daughter, I thought you could see her in the picture, in the back row, second from the left, that's Angelina. No, that's 𝐿𝐷𝐿 right there. That's Angelina, right?
This is 𝐿𝐷𝐿?
𝐿𝐷𝐿.
And that's Angelina?
Yeah. Angelina and her husband were actually at my parents' wedding in 1971. So that was pretty cool. The family, they all stayed in touch, because my grandfather just needed to have all the Italians over for the wedding. And it turned out to be okay, well, if you're going to do that, my other grandfather's like, all right, I'm going to have all my family over. So there's hundreds of people at the wedding. So,
well, I've always known Italian weddings to be big affairs.
Yeah. But when you have French Canadians and the Italians together, there's no stopping them. All the wine's going to flow. There's wine everywhere.
Okay, we have one more profile we're going to show you, and then we're going to do bingo. I've dropped the link again for the second bingo card. So, Domenico.
Yes, Domenico Marinaro. This is an example of cousin bait right here because I put this profile up and a distant cousin messaged me like, "Hey, why do you have my grandfather up?" I'm like, "Well, I'm doing the Italian naval stuff like that." And she, "Oh, I'm on Ancestry," she says. So I go check her profile out. She's a DNA match with my great aunt.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, what? No way. And so we ended up talking, and I emailed, because it turns out Domenico's mother was a Ferraiolo. So I was like, what? No way. So I emailed St. Pietro's plumbing office saying, hey, can I have the birth marriages of Bruno Marinaro, who was his father, and his mother, I forget her name, but anyway, I asked for the birth certificates and stuff. Yeah, Maria Lisa Betta. And I got that, and I managed to trace the tree back, and it turned out that the lady who contacted me is my great aunt's fourth cousin once removed. So that's why she's a DNA match. So that's just kind of funny.
But it's interesting because again, Chris added her because of the book.
Yes.
And the other thing that I like about Space Pages and Cousin Bait is I'm looking throughout all your pictures. All these profiles are just really beautifully done, Chris. And I'm looking at the pictures, I'm looking at the locations, and I'm thinking as a researcher, these are gold mines. And if you do get Cousin Bait with some of these, you might not have a picture, but they might. Or they might have the great random aunt's birth certificate in a toolbox in the basement. You never know.
Because I got that picture from the lady who contacted me, and because I have her grandfather up and her dad, who is Columbus Marinaro.
In this.
And another thing is Domenico's sister Natalina was married to Giovanni, and they had a daughter named let's see, I forget, Mary or something like that. And like there's just Domenico and Natalina's sister both took one of Giovanni's kids with them to Haverhill because she stayed behind for some reason. So she just like met up with her family back in Haverhill. And that was kind of cool.
But there's a story there that you're able to trace and put on.
Yeah, the story in the book too. So,
and the interesting thing, I'm looking at this page too. So you have that Domenico was employed as a tailor and lived on Davenport Street with his large family. Sadly, 2 sons were lost in 2 separate wars. Yeah. The interesting part is that you have Davenport Street. So if you happen to have a one-place study, and say that you have one of Haverhill. I said it wrong. I put that R in there. Haverhill.
No biscuits for you.
Yeah, no biscuits for me. I can drop the vowels, but I cannot drop the consonants for some reason. But if you do have a one-place study with a location and it's small enough, or if it's back in colonial times, it's definitely small enough, a separate space page to that one-place study on diagramming maybe the streets and the houses and who lives where on which street in town. That's also another way that you can incorporate a space page to something you're already working on and something you already have. If you decide that you want to do a one-place study on just a street, you could do that. But if you already have the location of the town, I would instead, if you want to document the streets, I would instead just add a space page. And for Davenport Street, from the book, Chris could probably lay out every home and who lived there. And
you can just compare it with the censuses and everything else. Like my great grandfather Giuseppe Carabs, he's not in the book, but he really should be. But he lived on Bartlett Street in Haverhill, and he lives in like a triple-decker apartment type of dwelling.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he and his wife lived on one floor. One of the girls, the daughters, lived on another floor. And then stuff like that happened a lot. And it's like you can just write about that. Because that street's really important in Haverhill, as well as like Bedford Street and Washington Street, of course, which is where my grandmother lived, Grandmother Oli.
So those are just different things. He's given 3 different streets, so it would be kind of cool to add to your already one place study as a space page if you wanted to document it. Also a lot of people, especially this month, I've gotten information in text and DMs from people taking genealogy road trips this year. I think everybody is definitely out and about. So if you are doing something like that and you have a one place study, or you're thinking about doing a one place study, definitely take your camera or your phone and take some pictures to add to your space page or your one place study page. Okay, let's talk bingo. So let me go ahead and bring up the bingo. Chris has given me words that are based on this book, and he's going to tell us what these words are. And in a lot of cases, he's also going to pronounce them for me so I don't mess them up.
All of the cases. Most of the cases.
So if everybody's ready, everybody has their bingo card. Again, if you've already won in the past 6 months with anything on WikiTree, not just bingo, with anything, then you cannot win again, but feel free to play. Just don't yell bingo. And 1 prize per household every 6 months. Feel free to yell at me. And you'll notice for this card, there is an American flag and an Italian flag right in the middle. So go ahead and click on that. That is your free space.
All right, let's get this party started.
Okay. Bartlett Street. Why is this important to you?
Well, I just discussed it, obviously. That is where my great-grandparents, Clementina Carves and Giuseppe lived. So they lived in a house on Bartlett Street, which was like 3 levels or so. And I remember going there and growing up because that's where my Aunt Louise lived too, my great Aunt Louise. And that's important because a lot of Italians lived on Bartlett Street. They also lived various other roads in here, like Washington Street, Bedford Street, yeah, just all over. There was just like a little block, well, several blocks actually.
Oh, your ancestors.
Where everybody lived, just like this general area. Serratorius. You're going to find that name a lot in Haverhill because there were a lot of Serratorius there. And there was this one guy, one Serratori, who ended up killing somebody because I forget who he killed, but it's on Washington Street, and he shot him as he was going to work because he did not like the guy's friendship with his wife at the time. So he just took matters into his own hands, shot him.
So a little bit of jealousy.
Shot one of the Chiampas. So,
and he died?
Oh, yeah. He died right there. DeSando. You're going to find a lot of DeSandos in Haverhill because that name's really, really common there. They're originally from San Pietro, and one of the DeSandos actually sponsored my great-grandfather Vincenzo's naturalization. You can find his name on the naturalization paper. He's also in the book, too. So that was good.
That's really cool.
Yeah. The Italian credit union handed out money to all Italians who needed it, and
uh-oh. Did we lose Chris?
The credit union.
There we go. We lost you for a second. So the Italian credit union handed out money to the Italians?
Yes. They handed out money to Italians who needed it so they can build houses and be more, well off, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the people in charge initially was my great-grandfather, Giuseppe Carves. So that was really cool.
That is cool.
Guadamanarda is a town in Campania, which is where the Penta family came from. And those are the relatives of my second great-grandmother, Maria Lucia. And there are a lot of Pentas and Schinas in Haverhill. They're also in the book. And one of Maria Lucia's brothers is we actually got like a picture or so like that of them. And I actually got in contact with one of the Penta cousins because I put up his profile on WikiTree. They're like, hey, why do you have, again, it was another picture of mention of, hey, why do you have so-and-so on WikiTree? And so I explained where it was, my connection to everybody. So, and we got to talking, and he actually went to Italy like not too long ago. I haven't heard back from him yet. I hope he's okay. I think he went to Sicily, so I really hope he's okay.
You'll have to get in touch with him. But again, cousin fate worked.
Yes, it does. That is the last name of my great grandfather, and there's actually a spelling variation of that because his brother Rocco went by Carabas, which is Carrabis, and so did his brother Pasquale. Now, Pasquale and Rocco both lived in different areas of Massachusetts. They lived in, let's see, where did they live? Melrose and, Melrose. And that's not too far away, so they would visit each other and everything else. And Rocco would bring along his wine, which was really, really strong homemade wine. And they would just like compare and contrast their wine and everything else.
Who was your first ancestor to the town?
What?
Who was your first ancestor to the town?
That I found? I don't really know. I don't really remember. It's been a while. 𝐏𝐚𝐿, that would be my great aunt's husband. Well, Arnold 𝐏𝐿. He's actually in the book, and like I said before, my great aunt said, "Oh no, I don't want to be in the book." But the funny thing is, her husband and his family is actually in the book. We actually have a picture of the 𝐏𝐿 family and put it up on WikiTree. So that's kind of cool.
Did she provide, I know we talked about this briefly, so she didn't want to be in the book, but did she provide a lot of information for all her people behind it, the ancestors and the descendants, and she thought she would just be erased?
I think what happened was either her sons, either one of them kind of provided the information anyway. So, and the pictures.
Yeah.
Pictures of 𝐏𝐿. So it's just like, we'll just kind of go around her, Yeah, we already talked about the Sandos.
Yeah. And it's, again, when you start to see these names, and here, I'm connecting them on the category that you've already have these on WikiTree. So it's interesting to me to connect the dots.
Okay, I have a question from Carol. She's asked me if any of Italian surnames were anglicized. No, actually, they weren't. No, not really.
And Chris, let's go ahead and say Chris and I agree on this. We very strongly agree on this, and I'm going to surprise you with this, but I think you know where I'm going. So again, for anybody who might be new to genealogy and immigrants, Ellis Island did not. You want to finish that, Chris?
No, they didn't change your last name.
They did not. So I don't know where this started, but somewhere it started, and everybody believes it, that Ellis Island changed the name. So when you came in, and if you had a difficult name to understand or read or pronounce.
Sandy, I think I know where it started.
Okay.
Remember in Godfather Part 2, where Vincent Andolini came into Ellis Island, and the guy said, "Okay, who are you, Vincent from Corleone? Okay, you gotta be Vincent Corleone from now on." That's how that started. And everybody took that as gospel.
And it's just not. It's just not. These passenger lists were created before they boarded. So whatever name was given by the immigrant before they even got on the ship, that's the name that came all the way to America on that passenger ship.
Yeah, my dad.
I do talk about that every once in a while, usually around WikiTree Day. Okay, and this is the author of the book.
Yes, it is. and she obviously is not very Italian because she's very Irish actually, and she had a really good sense of humor because she wrote the introduction for the book, and I tried to contact her, and I don't know, she's just like never tried to contact me back. I assume she's still around, but I'm not really sure.
That could be. I didn't think about that. I just think it's interesting because O'Malley feels very Irish to me.
Yeah,
And
well,
one of our members in the audience had said earlier, been to a wedding or event with Italians and Irish. That's a really good time.
well, yeah, you have to realize that Massachusetts has a lot of Irish people, a lot, especially in Boston. Massachusetts really is the melting pot of America, basically, because we have cultures from all over the world, just south of the border and into New Hampshire, southern New Hampshire especially. There's going to be a lot of Italians, there's going to be a lot of Irish. And naturally, I have a lot of friends and family members who are Irish and Italian, like my sister-in-law, several of my friends. You're going to find a lot of Irish and Italians. But it happens a lot, a real lot. And obviously, that's my last name.
So for those that I tend to shorten it, Chris from Italy, or I just say Chris. So let me try Ferraiolo.
Yes, you learned. Good job. You can't pronounce Haverhill for some reason.
You know why? It's got a lot of vowels in it. I do vowels very well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not really mentioned in the book, but kind of adjacent because they're connected to the Marineros. And
that sounds funny. I'm sorry.
And the Augustas, actually, because the Augustas are mentioned in the book, and the Benedettis actually owned a deli in Haverhill, and really, really good subs there. They have a sub named after Roman emperors. It's a really good sub. There's the Nero. There's a sub called the Caligula. I'll give you one reason why they call it the Caligula. Give you one guess why they call it the Caligula. Think about it. What was it? What was Caligula known for?
I don't know. They'll say for work. I don't know.
It was known for its excess of
excess
of everything.
And we do have a bingo too.
Yeah, but good job. Yeah, the sub has a whole bunch of like cheese and cutlets and stuff like that. It'll give you a stomachache, guaranteed. Yes. Congratulations,
Kristen. So, Kristen, what you're going to do is you're going to email 𝐿, let her know that you won at the noon bingo, and she will get back in touch with you. Kristen, I will tell you that I highly, highly recommend the Appalachian mug, since Kristen is one of our Appalachians that we join. So let me go ahead and wrap this up real quick with Chris and say, did you enjoy the project? Did you enjoy doing it?
Yeah.
And did you find any surprises?
Yeah, a few here and there, yeah.
And we already know you have cousin bait from it.
Yes.
And I would like to also point out that if anybody is interested in doing a historical family book space page like Chris, feel free to reach out with Chris. Chris is one of the best people on WikiTree for mentoring and helping. You always answer my questions every time I have something about Italy. You're very helpful. And he can get you the information on how he set it up, and probably go ahead and look at some of the profiles. I mean, your profiles are just beautiful, how you have them categorized in a one-place study. You also have them with historical book and with the location and sometimes occupation. And you taught me something new. I did not realize there was a sources by location category. So now I've got to go see if I'm going to put my books and where I'm going to put those as well. So thank you, everybody, for joining. Does anybody have any last-minute questions for Chris about his space page or about his family that he's worked on? And while you guys do that, I just want to point out that the next bingo will be later on today at 6 p.m. Eastern time. It is going to be with David Randall, because we do notables, and David is Mr. Notable on WikiTree, at least to me he is, and we are doing rock guitar greats. So we're going to kind of bring in some rock and music. This was a special request of mine to do tonight, to kind of say a thank you to some of the programmers that do all the work for us with WBE and B and Sorcerer and things like that. This should be a lot of fun as we go through that. And then next month, remember, we're always, for the most part, the first Friday of the month at noon and 6. So the next month, we have a very interesting, detailed space pages chronicling a family's exposure and interest into war. So how a family survived war based off one person, what he saw and what he went through. And this is a space page. This is just fabulous. I think that, Chris, all your stories that you have, in as well as the ones from the book, you could almost write your own book. I think Chris has, there you go. Did I lose you? We might have lost. Nope, there you go.
No, I'm still here.
So thanks for joining us, Chris. Thanks for showing off your family. And I hope everybody looks at his space page. If you have any questions, let them know. Otherwise, I will see everybody in a couple hours. We've got another bingo and another 2 chances to win a mug. Bye, everybody.